Welcome to the Coop Tank. I'm your host, Steve Cooper, coming to you from SuiteRecording in beautiful Mount Laurel, New Jersey. And I'm here with Joe Gangiemi. And Joe, I saw breakdancing. Breakdancing is in the Olympic now. And I had a roommate in college that used to breakdance, and I tried to pop and lock, but I sucked. Have you ever breakdanced?
Coop. Let's just say I have two left feet and probably two left hands too. It's not a good sight. But I am better at making people dance with my guitar than I am actually dancing myself.
Have you ever done the tango or the waltz?
I've tried. Yeah.
That's good. Well, then why don't you tell us about SuiteRecording, because this is a wonderful place. So tell us all about it.
Yeah, sure thing. At SuiteRecording, we help brands and businesses and organizations to leverage the power of podcasting and YouTube and video content to generate quality content and to amplify their message and to reach their audience in a fun and unique way. So we can help you with everything from planning your content through to recording it, producing it, and even publishing it. So if you're interested in learning more about how we can help you in your business, contact us anytime at hello@suiterecording.com or visit us on the web at suiterecording.com. That's SUITE. Take it away, Coop.
All right. We have a great show today, and it's all people I've met through networking, and some I met a few years ago, some I met recently. And we have first from SGI Wealth Management, Patrick McCrindle. What's up, Pat?
What's going on, Coop? Thanks a lot for having me today. Appreciate it.
All right. And then from the Emerson Group and published novelist, we have Gregg Podolski. What's up, Greg?
What's going on, Coop?
And finally, from LifeWave, we have Christine Alcavage. What's up, Christine?
Hey, good morning, Coop. Thanks for having me.
All right. So, Patrick, tell us a little about what you do and more about SGI Wealth Management.
Yeah, of course. Thanks, Coop. So once again, Patrick McCrindle, independent financial advisor with SGI Wealth Management. So we're a team of independent financial advisors. We offer a personable and holistic approach to kind of an umbrella of wealth management services. I'm also a big advocate of education, right? So through multiple means, whether that's my podcast, seminars, pop-up shows, those kind of things. On another side note, also the president of Collingswood Rotary Club. So really enjoy, building relationships with the close people around me and finding ways we can make the world a better place,
All right. And I've been to your card event, and I don't play cards, but I just go to have the pizza and have a beer, and it's very fun. So
absolutely. Thanks.
So Greg, tell us a little about what you do for Emerson Group, and also tell us a little about your book. Gregg Podolski.
I will, but first I got to say I didn't realize Patrick's mustache game was going to be so strong. I have a full beard and I easily have the second best facial hair on the group today. So just a hat tip to you, Patrick, for rocking that and making it look good. So the Emerson Group is a family-owned staffing and recruitment firm. We've been in business for over 50 years. We operate in Morristown, New Jersey, and we, basically that greater Philly, South Jersey area. I'm the VP of direct hire. It's a 14-person boutique firm, so VP, I might as well be called the emperor of direct hire, but what we all do is we help other people become more successful. That's our core purpose, whether that's helping a candidate find the right job or helping one of our client companies find the right candidate. We go out, we source the talent, we manage the whole process, we take that off of the plate of our clients, and hopefully at the end of the day, we have two sides that are both very happy with the end result. And I love what I do. I've been there this is my 13th year, I think, and it's a fantastic company.
All right. And Christine, tell us a little about LifeWave.
So LifeWave, actually, this is the 20th anniversary this year of LifeWave. It was a company that was started back when our inventor was asked by the Navy to make something for the Navy SEALs for energy, because what they were giving them was not working. And they had to stay up for a long time. So we made a two-patch system that burns fat for fuel, and it worked. And that's how the company came to be. And then our hugest product, the X39, was actually brought out in 2019. They were working on it, perfecting it for 20 years. It's a patented form of wearable light technology. So it works with your body's own light. It's just made up of water, salt, oxygen, stabilized oxygen, amino acids, and it forms a crystal lattice structure. It's kind of an amazing technology because your own body's light bounces off these crystals and goes back into your body with a message to form different peptides in the body.
Okay.
And they can do amazing things.
Wow.
That's awesome. So okay, so everyone has a story. We all have different stories. We all live different lives. That's what's great about this show. I get to meet people that tell their story. We're going to start with you, Gregg. How did you end up at Emerson? What was your path to your position?
Right up the bat, I've never met anybody who said, when I was a kid, I really wanted to be a recruiter. Like that just doesn't happen. Everybody sort of falls into it. And I tell everybody that who's ever wanted to work in the industry, if you make it through that first year, you get your members only jacket because you end up just absolutely loving the business and loving what you do. And I'm no different that way. I went to school. I wanted to do radio. I went to Rutgers in New Brunswick with the goal of getting onto radio and hosting my own show, and then found out that in order to really do that successfully, you have to be very nomadic and kind of bounce around the country. And my wife and I got married very young, and she's a Jersey girl with deep roots here and said, if you want to do that, you go right ahead, but you're doing it without me. And I didn't want to do that either. So I said, well, what else can I do with a communications and journalism degree? And sales was the easiest thing to get into. So I just had a few sales jobs and sort of fell into recruiting when I was in not a great job that was really stressful and wasn't what I thought it would be. And I wanted anything out of it. I didn't care what it was. And there was a healthcare recruitment firm that was about 5 miles from my house. And I applied, I got the job and ended up absolutely loving it. And Emerson Group came about when I left that company and I applied for a position with a company they were working with who I recognized as one of my old clients. And I was interviewed for an HR generalist, which I really wasn't qualified for. But Judy Napoli, my colleague who interviewed me at that time, immediately went to Bill Emerson, our CEO, and said, this guy just came in for another job, but forget it. He's the direct hire recruiter we've been looking for. And when Bill called me to ask if I'd be interested in that role instead, it was a no-brainer. The company just had such a great family-owned, care about everybody vibe. And I took it and I haven't looked back since. And it's, again, I tell everybody, I love my job. I'm as happy on a Friday afternoon as I am on a Monday morning. And when you get that, man, you got something good. So
That's awesome. That's awesome. How about you, Christine? How did you end up with the LifeWave? I want to do the wave now. I want to do the wave.
everything about what Christine said sounds like Star Wars. So I am very
I
excited.
know, it's crazy.
Yeah.
And actually, that's the inventor's. He loves Star Wars and he loves the other like Star Trek and Power Rangers or something. I don't know. Anyway, I actually was a teacher for 31 and a half years and I retired from that. And I've always been in direct sales, but I was actually working for another company and I did a presentation for someone out in Boise, Idaho. And at the end, I said to her, didn't you tell me that, you were in health and wellness too? And she's like, yeah. And I said, well, what do you do? She's like, LifeWave. And I'm like, I have no clue what that is. And so she starts telling me, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I have a partially torn meniscus right now. Will this help me? I said, I've been looking at like stem cell injections and things like that. And I said, and I decide that's way too expensive. And she's like, yeah, I used 3 different patches. She goes, I partially tore my meniscus skiing. She goes, I was back on the mountain in week 4. And I'm like, what? I said, my knee's like this big. I said, they wanted me to get it drained. They told me 8 to 10 weeks of PT. And I'm like, I don't have time for that. And so I was like, okay, sign me up. And it worked for me in the same time frame. And I was like, this is too good not to share with other people. So that's how it all started.
That's awesome. I never knew you were a teacher. I never knew that. It's funny. You and Michelle Cruz are teachers.
And I taught special ed too.
Okay, that's amazing. Patrick, how'd you end up in what you do?
Yeah. Thanks a lot, Coop. So interesting. Well, yeah, pretty interesting story. Greg, also went to Rutgers University. I was over in Camden, finance and economics, double major. And a close friend of mine was actually interning with SGI Wealth when I was, I believe, a junior. So he introduced me to the owner of SGI, Scott Gutman. Said, hey, why don't you come to this stock market discussion, right? We have a monthly stock market talk that the interns run. You can come, talk about some stocks. You look at an outlook. Kicked it off with Scott, and he said, come stop by the internship fair in a couple months, and we'll have a conversation. So fast forward a little bit, I interned for a year at first, extended the internship because I really loved, the model that Scott built out at SGI. And I always had a knack for numbers. I was torn between taking the analyst route or the advising route, but I love talking. Sometimes I never stop talking. I love building relationships with people and just shaking hands and getting out there. And I'm like, well, can sit behind a screen and crunch numbers all day, which, some people like, if you love to do that, absolutely. I don't knack it. But for me, I wanted to get out there and build relationships and talk to people. It's funny. So my friend who interned, he took the analyst route. He found out, he was in there at SGI, said, I want to take the analyst route. I ended up interning there 2 years upon graduation. Said, look, I'm going to take this summer to get fully licensed. So in 3 months, knocked out all my licensing exams, passed on the first go. I was pretty proud about that. And yeah, we're here 3 years later, and I absolutely love what I do. The building relationships, getting people to where they want to be, and kind of opening their eyes to all of the hard work that they put in over decades, and being able to be the person to tell them that yes, you can retire, or yeah, you can buy this shore house down there, and you see that smile on their face. It's like, wow, this is feel good work. And aside from that, the networking and getting out there and communicate, I just love it. I'm completely absorbed in it, and I'm locked in for the long round.
Okay, so you all love your job. That's great. I think that's good. And you do, and I can tell because I always say there's so many people who are full of shit. Like I love my job, and they're like, oh, and like no, you don't, no, you don't. But since you all love your job, I'm going to ask you, when it comes to your job and your life, and we'll start with you, Christine. What is something you need to improve on? Like I'm a big procrastinator. I'm really trying to get that together. But what is something that either in your job or your personal life is something you need to improve on that you're conscious of and you know?
I would say more marketing because I do a ton of networking. And I, like Patrick, I absolutely love getting out there because if not, I work here. And I was being a teacher and being used to being around people, got to be around people. I can't sit at home. But just definitely, I have to get out there more on social media, I guess, for marketing, I would say. And
Okay.
if you want to switch it to at home, just a little better time management. That's
Okay.
for
That's fair enough. That's
yeah.
fair. How about you, Patrick? What do you have to improve on?
Yeah, so I'm gonna take one characteristic of mine that I've been improving on, and it kind of affects my work and personal life, right? So I have very intense OCD, okay, from a young age. And over the past, I'd say, I think after college is really when I started taking my OCD and using it to like improve my situations, right? So if I am anxious about something, or if my OCD tendencies kick in on something, that kind of sets off an alarm in my mind and lets me know, like, do something about it, right? Like you can sit here, you can be anxious, you can drive yourself nuts, you can check your schedule 15 times in 20 minutes, right? But I've learned to use that as, oh, there's a tendency. Let me get on it. Let me get the job done. See what I can do to put that stress to the side and just hop on it. So that's one thing I'm actively working on, and I think I have improved on. Yeah.
Okay, that's cool. How about you, Greg? What do you need to improve on?
I really need to cut back on the naps I take at work. I mean, it's really cutting into my productivity. But besides that, no, it's weird. We did a PI assessment, which I'm sure you guys are familiar with, and mine came back as an individualist, which means I very much have my own way of doing things, and it's sort of a unique blend of an introvert and an extrovert. I love people. I love interacting. How, like Patrick said, that's why I love my job, but I'm also very singular when I do anything. Like I was the kid in school who was the class clown and loved talking and had lots of friends, but hated group projects. I'd rather just do it myself. And so one of the things I consistently need to work on, because at Emerson Group, we do have a lot of partner firms that we work with. We have a lot of resources for us that are other people who could help us with what we do. And I tend to be very lagging and asking for that help and reaching out to those other resources who could make my job easier. because I have my own way of doing things. I kind of get into my own lane and I stay there sometimes too long. And, you know, every time I have reached out, it's just opened up so many possibilities, you know, for the betterment of our clients and our candidates. And so just getting to that spot quicker and getting over my own, I need to do it this way, is probably something that would be the main focus.
Okay, so that's something you need to improve on. So we're going to go. Patrick had used the word characteristic. What is a characteristic you like about yourself? Like someone had told me, you know, I'm credible, and I like that when I heard that. You know, I like the fact that people believe me. I'm not full of shit, and I might say that because there are so many people who are full of shit. Just go onto LinkedIn. You know, people are like, oh, look at me. Yeah. And you're like, yeah, whatever. That's what I hear with comics. I never say I'm a comedian. I did comedy, but then people see me and they go, man, you're really funny. And I said, yeah. But the people go, oh, I'm a comedian. Really? Have you ever been on stage? No, I'm funny at work. I'm like, then you're not. Just I'm credible. People believe me. So we'll stay with you. We'll stay with you, Gregg. What is a characteristic that you're really glad you have and makes you excel?
It's so cool. We did something for our office Christmas party years ago. It was my coworker Karen, I believe, came up with the idea. And everybody in the office at the time had to come up with one word to describe everybody else at the office. And what she did was she framed that. So everybody that answered the word for you, you got each of their words in a frame. And it let you know what other people thought of you. And I thought that was a brilliant idea, and we all loved it. I still have it at my desk. And of all the words that appear on that, the one that I'm the most proud of is diplomatic, because that's always my default tactic. I am not a confrontationalist by nature. I don't go seeking a fight. In my mind, there's always a way we can work something out. There's never any problem that can't be solved by open and honest communication, which is diplomacy at its heart. And so when I was referred to as that by a coworker, that to me was like the biggest compliment you could pay me, because I try to operate like that, not only in my professional, but my business life,
Okay.
or my personal life.
That's awesome, man. That's good. That's a very good idea too. That is cool. I mean, it's like, of course, whoever comes in and says jackass, jerk, you're like, hey, wait a second.
I was going to say,
do one for you, Coop. We need to see what yours would be.
I used to do that with my students.
Did you?
And we would there'd be a piece of paper and I'd write them up, record everything, and then the kids would get that piece of paper, and they were just like, oh my gosh, I never knew. I had their parents do it for them too. That was really eye-opening, because they had no idea what their parents really thought on certain.
My parents wrote dunce. That's they did that dunce. So Patrick, what's a characteristic that you're proud of, that you have?
Yeah, of course. So I think my favorite characteristic, and I'll apply this again I like to tie everything together, right? Work life, personal life, relationships, friends, family. I try to maintain the utmost transparency, right? And that over time has become my favorite characteristic, because I feel whether again, work, personal life, when you put everything on the table, when you're dealing with a situation, when you're dealing with someone, and there's no surprises, there's no, worries about, not acting in the best interest of a client or your friend or family. It's just when I am completely transparent and honest with someone, and, even if it's kind of hard to get out and hard to put into words, it always leads to the better scenario, for me at least. There's no surprises, right? And you can fix things a whole lot easier when you know every detail about the situation, right? And there's no lies, there's no dishonesty, there's just communication and transparency, right? So definitely hold that close to all areas of my life.
Okay. How about you, Christine?
I guess I would have to say caring, because I really care about people. And part of the reason I went into special ed instead of something else is because I worked with these kids in high school. I had 2 periods working with this special ed population, and it was just an amazing experience. And when I do what I do now, like, I listen to people, like what their ailments are or whatever, and I care about helping them. Like, I'm not, I mean, of course we all want to make money, but I'm more into how can I help this person? Like, and then just developing relationships with people. That's why I love networking so much, because it's all about the relationships. And the people that you meet, and just doing things outside of just networking besides, developing lasting friendships and having caring relationships.
Okay. The question I was going to ask next was, what do you like about your job? But you already told me. You already answered that.
I'm sorry.
No. All of you have, and that's great. That means you really like your job. So we're going to go on the flip side. And we're going to start with you, Patrick. What don't you like about your job? Because no matter what you do, it's like you mentioned OCD. My wife has OCD. Drives me crazy. And when we get in an argument, though, I rearrange all the furniture and I leave the room and it pisses her off. And it's no, but I love her to death. She's wonderful. But that bothers me. Like when she stresses over little things, I'm like, calm down. So we all have something we don't like. So what's something that you don't like about your job, Pat?
All right, something I don't like about my job. And, this is something that I typically, I guess I don't talk about too often because it's something that I struggled with. And I think the first really like year and a half of being a young independent financial advisor, right? Age bias. I'm shaking a lot of hands. I'm networking. I'm in front of a lot of people that have some years on me, whether that's clients, networking. And sometimes there's, you get that vibe of age bias. It's like, is this person either taking me seriously or, do they think, and understandably so, right? I'm younger. It's like, how much experience can this person have? But once in a while, I catch myself like, give me a chance to talk and prove myself. Like I do know my expertise, right? And there's a flip side to it. I understand. It's a very sensitive and serious industry, but I worked my tail off in college, and everything I do is a reflection of professionals that have been in the industry for almost as long as I've been alive, right? So that's it, age bias, but I'm overcoming it. I've been in the industry long enough now, so it's starting to subside, but I'll still, years from now, if someone asks me like, what was the hardest part or what was something you really disliked, it's the age bias.
It's funny you bring up age bias because I see it like out networking, and I'm older. I'm in that demographic of I should be the crotchety old man. I am the get off my lawn man, but I'm hip. But I see it a lot when just people don't take younger people seriously, and I always make time for younger people because they know what's going on. Like when you get older, you're very set in your ways. But it's funny you say that because I see it in networking, and we'll talk about networking later. But that's good. You do. How about you, Gregg? What's something that you don't like about your job?
So the thing I don't like is also, ironically, one of the things that I actually end up enjoying about it because it's a challenge, and it's the reputation that recruiters in general have in the business world, and it's not a good one. And there's some justification for that. I mean, there's some recruiters out there that are only out for a quick buck, and you know them when you talk to them. But I always equate what I do to an auto mechanic, right? Mechanics also don't have a great reputation. Most people just instinctively don't trust them. But when you find one that's good, you latch on to them because in theory, to stick with the metaphor, I don't know cars, right? I can change a light bulb, I can change my headlight, I could change a tire, and I could probably change my oil if you give me a full weekend, right? Everything else about the car, I don't know anything about it, but in theory, there's a YouTube video for everything. I can go on, I can see how to fix anything that's wrong with my car. I can go to Napa or AutoZone or wherever and buy the parts and save myself a considerable amount of money than if I took it to the mechanic and if I just do it myself. In reality, what's going to happen is I have to carve out the time, which I'm not going to have easily. So that's already a challenge. It's probably going to take me at least twice as long as a professional, if not more. And more likely than not, I will mess something up along the way that now I need to go back and fix. It'll cost me more parts and more time as opposed to just taking it to the pro. So the same thing going to the business owner. In theory, they can hire for any position that they have open. There's Indeed, there's AI now, there's all kinds of tools out there. There's no reason why they couldn't. But there are certain positions that are hard to find. It's a lot of time, it's a lot of effort, and they have a lot more on their plate to do than just that. And then there's things where maybe it's a confidential search, they're replacing somebody who's currently in the role. There's lots of reasons that it makes sense to pay somebody who knows what they're doing to do the job and take it off of their plate. But when you have that sort of instinctive, you're just trying to scam me, and why are you charging this fee just to make some phone calls and post some resumes? So that's frustrating, but it's also the challenge of when you get that client to see your value and they become a longtime customer, that is so rewarding. So the thing that frustrates me and sometimes I don't like is also the reason why I get a charge when it happens, and I can kind of overcome it.
Okay, it's funny about the mechanic. It is. I had in LA. I had a great mechanic, and to this day, if I see one of my friends on Facebook saying, "Does anyone know a good mechanic in the Valley?" I always go Harry from A&R Auto because my friend found him. The guy was great. You went in, he was honest, and right. It's the same thing. You're going because I went to Pep Boys one time and they tried to screw me, and I'm like, "Yeah, you put this other part on, but you said it was this part. Well, we didn't have that part. Well, then don't quote me and say that part's going on." But that's a very good analogy. How about you, Christine? What do you not like about your job? Because you love networking, you love talking to people, helping people, but there's got to be something you don't like.
Just keeping track of all the people that I have to get back in touch with, like my CRM, putting everything in, all the details in, and I take notes on people. Like, so say we met and you told me you had your back was hurting, you have a torn rotator cuff. Like, I put all that information down. Like, I'll either jot it on the back of the business card so I remember for later. So when I talk to the person again, I know what it is that I need to, help them with. But it's just sitting down and putting all that information in.
Okay.
So
it's funny you jot stuff down. I'm a jotter too. But remember when you used to be like going to a networking event, you could jot on a cocktail napkin, but they don't have them anymore. It's all like coasters. And when you try to write, it says like Yingling and has some logo and it sucks. So, okay. So, I'm interested in you guys' answers to this question. I talk about who's an important person in your life, and I've done this show. I've done 55 of these roundtables. So I think of different people, and then I always bring up a very important person in my life was my mom. Okay, I've had important persons in comedy, different stuff. I'm hanging out with a buddy of mine at a concert tonight who was an important person in my life, but my mom was always important because she taught me always to ask. The worst you can get is a no, and that's helped me. There's some things I've asked, but I thought this is never going to happen. I asked to get Ed Asner on my podcast, and the PR guy said, "Sure, when do you want him in the studio?" I was like, "Okay." I asked, and that's one thing. She was very important in my life, and she helped shape who I am. Gregg, who's someone in your life? It can be past, now. Who is someone in your life who's really played an important role on who you are now as a grown person?
Yeah, that's easy. That's my kids. I have a 17-year-old daughter and a 12-year-old son. And going back to that first job that I told you that got me into recruiting, the one that was not what it was advertised as, it's the only job I've had in my life that physically made me ill. Like going to work every day, the knot in my stomach, I wasn't eating, I was losing weight, I was beyond stressed. It was a complete 180 from what I was promised. And at the same time, my wife had literally just given birth to our daughter, which was our first child. And I tortured through that first job for 3 or 4 months and searched everywhere to get into recruiting. And the thing that kept me going and driving was, I got to do this for my daughter. I have to do this for my daughter. And then when my son was born, it's the same thing. And as an adult, they are the motivators for whenever I feel like I can't do something or I don't want to do something, or if I need to check myself on the way that I'm personally behaving, I got to go, wait a minute, they're watching me. And I'm the most important, I hope so anyway, one of the most important people in their lives. I got to set a good example, and everything I'm doing is for them. So they are the constant, kick in the pants that I need to do things when I need it.
Okay. How about you, Christine? Who's someone who's played an important role in your life?
I would say, well, when I was a kid, my parents, but now it would be more my husband because he's always behind me. Like at first he's like, "Oh my gosh, here you go again. You're starting another business." Like I've I've always had a business while I taught on the side and I tutored. I always was, I don't know, I enjoy working. I enjoy being around people. But he was always like, "All right, give it a shot," and he'll always have my back. He'll be like, "How's this? How's that? How's the business going?" And now I'm working to help him be able to retire early because we want to move to South Carolina. I'm also a caregiver for my mother part-time. So that's kind of, everything's kind of hinging on that thing. And, with her and her health. But just, he's always had my back, always gives me, words of encouragement. and he supports me no matter what I do. So
Okay,
I would
that's
say my
good.
husband, Dan.
That's good. How long you been married?
We just celebrated our 30th anniversary
Oh
in
yeah,
Jamaica.
you went to
Nice.
Iberostar.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah, where
The
you
Grand,
were.
yeah, that place, the seafood tower is amazing, man. Oh my God.
Oh my,
You feel bad. They
I
tell you
know,
at
and
these,
that was an appetizer.
I know, at these all
I
inclusive, they
got
tell
it,
you,
and I was like,
yeah, they tell you not to tip, and you're like, I can't get like a seafood tower and a fillet and have a few martinis, and I have to tip. I can't leave
oh, I
because
do
I mean,
too.
they
We
tell you
do.
not to, but it's funny. So
We
Patrick,
always do.
yeah, Patrick, who's someone who's important to you in your life?
Yeah, of course. So like Christine said, I have to give credit, because now I have a different influence now than I did when I was younger. But my parents, I mean, with everything that they went through, raising four children and, different storms that rolled through, always teaching me to roll with the punches, right? When, shit hits the fan, for lack of better, words, you can, kind of sit around and be, upset about it. But kind of open your eyes and think about what does that do for the situation, right? Push forward, keep your head up, and there's always a brighter day, and that has tremendously helped me in my life. Right now, in the past few years, though, 100% my girlfriend. I think a lot of people on this panel and listeners can understand the grind of starting your own business, right? And the first few years of keeping your head down, probably not making much money. Putting a lot of work hours in and having someone that genuinely believes in you and telling you that at the end of every day is like the only motivation that I needed, right? Anytime I had a hard day or anytime I doubted myself about, a certain scenario, Lydia, my girlfriend, was the first person to sit there and say, what do you, and with the most genuine look on her face, like, what are you worried about? Like, look how hard you're working. I believe in you. She kind of opens my eyes to look at what you did last week. Look at the account you got last week. Look at all, and she sheds light on all the positive things. And just I'm like, all right, I can genuinely tell that she believes in me, and that helps me to push forward. Absolutely.
All right, so real quick, as the only guy who didn't mention his spouse now, I would like to just say to my wife everything that Patrick just said for his girlfriend, honey, it goes for you too. 100%. We've been married for 22 years. I'd like to make it to 23. So, Coop, sorry.
All right, that's good. See, you have to say it, else you're gonna be sleeping on the couch.
I'm like, oh
Yeah.
man, this is not going well for me. We need to get her in there.
He'll be in a tent in the backyard.
Exactly.
Me and the kids who mean everything to me will be
Right. They'll be like, oh yeah, they'll be in with the tent with you. Take them with you too. Okay, so I'm gonna start with you, Patrick, for this. In the last like year or two,
Yeah.
it could be personal or it can be professional.
Okay.
What's a goal or an accomplishment you've achieved that has made you very proud?
In the past year?
Year or two.
Yeah, in the past year or two, I would say overcoming most of my generalized anxiety, right? Because that kind of sprouted from my OCD from a young age, right? I was like, I think 13 when I was diagnosed with OCD, and the doctor told my mom, like, this is going to help him tremendously, a lot more than it will, harm him when it comes to school and discipline and scheduling, right? Then I got to a certain age where like the anxiety from the OCD side of things, right? Constantly, worrying about something, or I fixate on something, and there's that. It can be something as little as, one small thing happens in the morning, and then it's a chain of reaction. My anxiety is heightened, right? And everything else is just a shit show anytime it happens, right? Because I'm in that heightened anxiety state. But over the past year or two, I've learned to, kind of put that to a halt. When I feel that anxiety coming on, kind of like how I said earlier, I use that as like a red flag in my head. Oh, there's the anxiety feeling. What can you do right now to subside this feeling? Or do you have to think about it more rationally, right? And I've gotten really good at that, and yeah, I'm definitely proud of myself for that.
Okay,
Patrick, have you ever tried? Oh,
I was going to say
sorry.
for anxiety, I take ashwagandha gummies, and they work awesomely. They really work.
I've heard good things about that. Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm not, because I do suffer from anxiety sometimes, but they're great. So, Christine, what is something what's something you're proud of? A personal or professional accomplishment in the last year or two?
So, There's a couple things. This year I'm on track to triple my business from last year. So I think being out there, developing those relationships, and people now know, like, and trust me. And now people are referring me to other people. So it's just like booming. And uh, I'm very excited about it just because it's what it's part of my goal to help my husband be able to retire early. So if I can keep that pace that I'm on now, it will be wonderful. And Patrick, I just wanted to say to you, have you ever tried mindful breathing?
I have, but I will admit I wasn't consistent with it.
Yeah, I used to teach that to my students
Okay.
because it helps so much with anxiety with the kids. Just even if you take 3 deep breaths when
Right.
you realize that it's going to happen,
Yeah.
or it's happening to you, or you're getting anxious, it's amazing.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Or do a bong hit. That will always work. So
Uh,
Gregg, what's something you're proud of? I know what you're going to say because you gotta talk about that. But I mean, you tell us what's made you proud in your professional or personal life in the last year or two.
Well, I'm going to double down and say marrying my beautiful wife 22 years ago was hands down. Professionally, no, it was. I have a book that just came out. It's just behind me. I don't know if you can quite see it. It's called The Recruiter. It's a novel. It's an action thriller that's got a lot of humor in it, which is my favorite type of novel or movie. And that came out last Tuesday, I believe it was. Was it last Tuesday, the 23rd? And it's doing well, I think, so far. Sales numbers aren't in yet, but it was, something that was like a childhood dream. I've always enjoyed writing. I had my first story published in Highlights magazine when I was 9 years old. It was a
cool.
story. Remember Highlights? Highlights
Yes,
magazine with
my kids used to order it when they were younger. Yep.
hidden pictures, man. With it was in
That's
every
cool.
pediatrician's waiting room, and there was always the one kid who didn't know the rule and did it in pen. And you're like, come on, man, like do it in pencil and then erase. But yeah, so when I got that story in there, that was always something I wanted to do, and it took a while, like it does for a lot of authors, and but it was something I was very proud to have accomplished, and hopefully there'll be more to come from that. So yeah.
All right.
Awesome.
Well, it's funny, Christine. Earlier, you said people refer you, and referrals. Now, we all like to refer people, okay, and we've all been burnt. Okay, we've all referred people, and they do a shitty job, and we hear about it. The company doesn't hear about it. Your person's like, what happened? It happens when you also refer someone, and they never call the person, and they're like, Coop, well, this person, and I'm like, well, I referred you, and they're like, well, they never called. So when it comes to referrals, for you to refer someone, okay, for you to sit there and give your endorsement, your referral, Christine, what characteristic does that person, or some characteristics or traits, does that person need so you can trust them and refer them?
Well, I can think of quite a few people that I've referred recently, like Kelly Warnersbach. She is the most genuine, nicest person, caring person. Anyone she comes across, she'll see how she can help them. And even if it doesn't have to do with her mattress boutique, adjust your sleep mattress boutique, like she just has the best heart. And so anyone who wants to is even talking about a new mattress or a pillow, I'm like, oh, you have to go see my friend Kelly. She's totally different than anyone I've ever met as far as in the mattress industry. Most people are like, oh, I'll spend $4.99 on my mattress. Who cares? I'm like, you sleep on it 7 hours a night. Like, she taught me about so many different things. Sleep posture. I didn't even know there was such a thing. But just I would say that I know they're going to get back to the person, because I will not refer somebody that I've even if they seem like they're really good, if I know that they haven't returned people's phone calls before, I don't want that on my conscience. I don't want to say, oh, call this person, they're really good. And then, like you said, they'll be like, yeah, they never got back to me. So it has to be someone who is trustworthy, I guess you could say, and who will follow up with people. I think customer service is huge.
Okay, and that
So,
is true. Now, how about you, Greg?
Well, that's what I mean. I make a living referring people, right? A lot of them have price tags attached, but like that's sort of what I'm doing. But that's more specific, like for a specific role, or like I've done a search and targeted this person. But if I'm just going to refer somebody over, in general, they need to professionalism is really the big thing. Like they need to know how to act in a professional environment. They need to know how to treat people the right way and treat them professionally, because if you don't have that, the skills don't matter. We've all met people that are great at their job, but they have no business interacting with other human beings in the workplace. And at that point, the person's just on borrowed time, or the people who work with them are on borrowed time. Like they're going to run away from the hills. So you've got to be professional. You got to know how to treat people. It's the golden rule. It's what we've all were taught when we were kids. You know, Christine, how many times did you teach your kids that? Treat
oh yeah.
unto others, right? Like if you don't have that basic rule down pat, then I'm not going to tell anybody that they should talk to you.
Right.
Okay. All right. How about you, Patrick?
So if I had to pick, I think there's three main characteristics that I'll look for when I'm, in the process of referring someone. Communication, kindness, and knowledge, right? I think communication is honestly number one for me. Listen, if I have a conversation with someone after networking, I'm going to know if they're knowledgeable on their area of expertise or not, right? So I kind of know that off of the bat, off of the conversation, or um, whatever we talked about. I know that the knowledge is there, right? But the communication, like Christine said, I do not want to refer to someone that's not going to return calls, or they might return the call and they take a couple weeks or months to get back. And listen, we all understand people are busy, right? But then there's the angle of not taking work on if you're not able to at that moment, right? And then there comes the transparency and honesty. Be honest. Say, oh, my schedule's backed up for the next 3 weeks. Maybe we can circle back and get back to that. But there are those kind of people who will just let those messages and voicemails pile up, and I guess they don't give it much thought of, how does this reflect, or how does this look on the person that you know sent this client to me, right? So, not to be harsh, but yeah, I think that can be pretty inconsiderate. So I try to hold those three values close when referring. Yeah.
Okay. So this next question is a two-parter. It's a two-parter. We're going to start with Greg for the two-parter. One, and we're talking about now, not what it meant to you years ago. We're talking about in this day.
All right.
We're going to start with one, what is success, and then follow up with what is happiness, because they do correlate, but they're not the same thing, because there's very successful people who aren't happy, and there's a lot of happy people who may not consider themselves successful. So first, Greg, what is success to you, and then what is happiness?
Ooh, see, that's tough because my answer was going to be happiness. And that's always been my answer when someone asks me, what is success? And so I guess we'll expand on it a little bit and say it's also fulfillment, right? Like, in order to be successful at something, you need to be happy. If you're not happy, I don't consider that a success. I consider it something you just happen to be good at, which is different than success. Success, though, to go more off of what you're thinking, is something that makes you feel like you've done something worthwhile. That when you go home at the end of the day, that day wasn't a waste. And that can be on a large scale or a small scale. Like one of the things I always tell everybody is, just simple numbers. There's too many candidates out there on the market that I talk to for the number of jobs that our clients have, right? Like I'm going to talk to way more candidates that I personally can't help just because my clients don't particularly have a need for that individual and their skill set at this time. But I have had more referrals from candidates who I never placed in a single job than ones that I have placed in a job because of the way I treated them, because I gave them advice on a resume, because I just made them feel like they weren't going to be stuck in unemployment limbo forever, with taking some time during my day to say, this is what the market's like. This is what you've got. This is how you should answer that question in an interview. And people respect that. And at the end of the day, I feel like even if I didn't put anybody in a job that week, I still made a difference in whoever's lives I talked to. That is a successful week and a successful, profession for me. And it
Okay.
makes me happy.
Okay, that's good. That's good. I'm glad. That's good that you flipped it in the beginning. You said, success. That's a very good point you made. Patrick.
Yeah. So are we speaking on just success first, and then we'll go to
Yeah,
happiness?
success and happiness, unless you're Greg and you have it all flipped back. But
Yeah,
he had a
I'm
great
gonna.
answer.
I decided to say, no, I don't like that question. I'm going to do it myself, Coop. This is it.
And he forgot to say that happiness and success is his wife of 22 years. He forgot to say that.
Yes. Yeah.
Can we edit that? You can edit that, right? You can make it sound like
we'll make it.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thing.
I'm blackmailing. I'm blackmailing you, buddy. You're gonna have like 5 copies of the recruiter signed at my house.
Oh my God.
Patrick, happiness, success, then happiness.
Yeah. So success to me, I'm going to tie it right into gratification. And I think that kind of bounces off Greg's point of, if you're feeling fulfilled at the end of the day, right, whether you had small goals, large goals that you're actively working towards and hitting, those smaller stepping stones along the way, right, that's still success. I have a goal 5 years from now. Have I reached that goal yet? No. Is it still success? Yeah, because I'm hitting those stepping stones leading up to that, goal in the future, right? And I think I'm always searching for that gratifying feeling at the end of the day. And if that's there, I feel successful for the day, right? I feel accomplished, made a client happy, did something nice for a friend or family member, right? Whatever it is, if I'm gratified, if I'm fulfilled, then in my opinion, I think I succeeded on that day or whatever those goals that I'm working on. And happiness to me is pretty much being content with the now, right? I got a roof over my head. I'm healthy. I have a loving girlfriend. My family's healthy. Everyone's together. To me, that's happiness, right? So.
Okay. How about you, Christine?
So success, if I'm talking about, well, it's kind of hard because in business and life, they're kind of similar and different. But I would say for me, when I get a text message or a message from one of my customers and they're telling me like, this is better, that's better. Like I had a woman who had sarcoidosis of the lungs, lesions on her lungs, and she had 8 weeks till her next scan. And if they grew, she had to start chemo. She calls me and she's like, you're not going to believe this. And I got my scan results. And I'm thinking, that doesn't sound too positive. And she's like, there were no detectable lesions left on my lungs. And I was like, what? None? That's amazing. Like, and I still, just when I tell people this story, I get the chills because that's a huge difference in somebody's life. So to me, that was success. Even if it's not me, it's the patch that did it, but it was just amazing. She's like, I can't thank you enough. And I'm thinking, oh my God, I didn't even know it could work that quickly. I knew it could help you, but I did not know how quickly that could work. So that to me was a huge success. But just like Patrick said too, and Greg, it's just that you just feel fulfilled at the end of the day. You feel good. You feel good about what you do, what you did for the day. And it just makes me, makes me want to go out and keep doing it more.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then happiness, actually it ties in because when I can help somebody, I think that makes me happy.
Okay. That's fair enough. Good answers, people. Good answers. So let's get to networking. We all network a lot. And it's funny, we all network a lot. And that's how I know you people. And I think networking, I love it, but I think sometimes it borders on socializing. And then I think you have to break that up. Like I was talking to a friend of mine the other day who's like, I didn't go to this event because it's a photo op. And he goes, I need to go to events that I can meet new people. Like Cocktails with Cooper. I mean,
I was going to say yours is
I have 20
Genuine
people.
networking.
I have 21. I have 20 new people showing up all the time. But that being said, and you all like networking, and I know me and Greg, we've talked about this. You really don't network that much. You go to more of conventions, not like the events we do. But what is something, and we'll start with you again, Patrick. What is something you don't like about networking? I mean, it can go out, but I don't like when I have to pay for booze or food. But besides that, what is something you don't like about networking?
So this may be an unpopular opinion. I don't know, because I feel like it's kind of 50-50 whenever I'm talking to people about it. So when I network, I like to, first things first, not even discuss like work purposes, right? I want to get to know that person briefly, right? Like what kind of person they are outside of work, right? Um, their characteristics, is their communication good? Can I get along with this person, right? If you can hit it off with that person and your values align, you can probably work together a whole lot easier, right? Because the fact of the matter is there are people who just don't connect, right? And that is totally fine. Sometimes you have to tell a client, I don't know if we're the best match. Maybe there's someone else who's better for you, right? Or if it's just for referral purposes, maybe our values don't align, right? Yeah, but for me, I think it's getting to know the person on a personal level, I guess, before diving into very professional talk, right? Because it's an icebreaker. I think both parties are a little bit more comfortable when you say, "Yeah, like how was your week? What'd you do over the weekend? Any plans for this upcoming weekend?" Yeah, small talk, but you guys are going to be a whole lot more comfortable leading into the professional talk if you kind of establish that comfortable base.
So you don't like when people don't do that?
Right, right. So I guess good example is, you shake someone's hand and immediately, not the what do you do question. I think that's fine because you should know what somebody wants to do, right? But if it's strictly professional talk and it's not really anything about yourself, I'm going to walk away from that conversation not really knowing what kind of person they are. I know what they do, right, with work, and I know how they do it, but I don't know what kind of person they are, I guess.
Okay. How about you, Greg? Because you do a whole different kind of networking than us, but there's got to be something you don't like about it.
Yeah, and I mean, I've done the networking events and stuff before, especially starting off. You want to kind of get your name out there, but a lot of it, what you're talking about, those sort of functions are things like Flo Ryan, who we both know, our business development director. She kind of is the one that's really front and center. But when I have gone to them, and I still go to them, the one thing it's just when both of you are in a conversation and you both realize the conversation is over, but neither one has ended it yet. And you have that 5 to 15 seconds where you just stand there with your drinking kind of go,
Looking
all
around.
right, well, I'm done with you now. I'm going to go over here. Like, there's no easy way to end that if they could just hand everybody a list of like conversation enders, or if you could just be like in court, like, I'm done with this witness. We're going to go over to this one now. Because that is the most singly awkward thing of any networking event. And you see it all around the room. It's like an 8th grade dance. It's like, okay, well, okay, thanks, great. Yep, bye, over here now.
All right. that is true.
That's
That's
a good point. That's a good point.
How about you, Christine? Because you're out networking all the time. What is something you don't like about networking?
I don't like when, like Patrick said, when you first come up to somebody, you're going to say, "Hey, nice to meet you. I'm Chris Alcavage. What's your name? What do you do?"
Yeah.
And then they try to sell you right away. Like, just have a conversation, learn a little bit more about people, or one person just totally dumb, like you can't even get a word in edgewise, and they just like, blah, 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 they're throwing up on you, basically. I'm like, yo, slow it down, buddy. Just talk to me and, have a conversation, not just be out to sell. Like, I'm more an authentic person, I guess. Just, I want to get to know the person, like Patrick said. And, and then, yes, Greg, also, like when you're in that conversation with a person like that, like, okay, I'm definitely done with you. Like, and then I'm like looking around like, okay, who can I go talk to? And because you just want to get away from them.
The conversation goes nowhere. It's like, do you like dogs? I like dogs too. Okay. It's like, what are we
See, I
doing?
learned what people didn't like is when I first started networking, I would wear a top hat and a cane and do a soft shoe, and I say I'm Cooper, and they would say what, and they get the fuck out of here, they get go, and so I stopped doing that. So now I still wear hats, but they're not top hats. So. Our next question is, and I'm going to start off with Gregg again because he better promote his book. I always talk about, I don't read business books, and I am reading one, 10,000 No's by Matthew Del Negro, who Matthew did my podcast, Cooper Talk, and he's been on The Sopranos. He played Cousin Brian. He was on The West Wing. He's on a great show called City in the Hill, and he talks about his acting career, and he was a Division I lacrosse player, and he was just tired of it, and he got into acting, and he talks about, how many no's he's gotten, how many parts he's met, and it's been really good. I've been listening to it, and that's like the only business book I've read. But what's a book to you that's made a difference or made an impact? And it could be a business book or a novel. So, Gregg, we'll start with you. What book has made a difference for you? Is it a business book or a novel?
I'm picking up what you're putting down, Coop. No, so yeah, we'll just plug my book here. It's called The Recruiter. It's a book that I wrote because I realized that there are really not a lot of books about recruiters in popular fiction. Like John Grisham kind of has the lawyers on lockdown, right? And Michael Crichton had doctors for ER, and I just never saw really recruiters. And so I thought, well, there's something I could write about. But my job in general is pretty boring. It's a lot of talking on the phone and looking at the computer and sending emails. And I didn't want to just do John Grisham with recruiters, where like a regular recruiter gets caught up into something shady, because I felt it had been done. So I thought, well, what if there was like recruiters for bad guys, right? Like, what if a mafia don needed a hitman and he didn't know anybody, or his regular guy was on vacation? Like, what would he do? And so I thought, well, there might be a recruiter for that, and that would be really fun and really interesting. And so the book's about that. It's about a guy who used to do what I do, through a bunch of bad decisions, got into working now for the wrong people, but happens to be very, very good at it. And one of his clients put his family in danger, and now he has to kind of step up and be an action hero when that's not really his thing, which was also a lot of fun. I wanted to write an action thriller where the hero was kind of really bad at the action stuff, because I thought that was very relatable. And it's got a lot of humor. Like, my wife and I just saw Deadpool and Wolverine. I love Ryan Reynolds. I think he's hysterical. So that kind of vibe I wanted to go for as well. But just to plug a different book other than mine, there's a book, it's nothing to do with business, but it really made a difference just for my outlook, and because I'm fascinated by these kind of things. There's a book called Not the End of the World. I can't remember the author. It's a British woman who works for a think tank that examines data and sort of debunks popular myths that have been perpetuated by the media. And this book in particular is about climate change and pollution. And the book's focus is that, yes, this is all real, and yes, this is a problem, and it's not something that's a hoax or anything. But the doom and gloom stuff that we read and hear about, most of that isn't true, and here's why. And here's a lot of data that backs up the fact that actually, while things aren't great, they're better than they were, and they're on the right trajectory. So it's sort of like you still got more work to do as a society and as a world. We need to do more, and we can do more, but don't give up because the doom and gloom makes it think like it's all a lost cause. Like, we're actually making a difference. And that was fascinating to me. And just when you read that stuff and hear that stuff over and over, to have somebody come out who's a scientist who knows what we're talking about and go, no, it's still bad, but like, we're really making progress. Keep it going. Let's get the momentum going. I loved it. I thought it was great.
Okay, cool. How about you, Patrick? I think you're a business book reader. You look like a business book reader. It's that mustache you got sitting there with you got the sunglasses and the beret on, smoking a clove cigarette, reading your business book at the coffee shop. What's a book that has made a difference for you?
Yeah, it's actually like hysterical that you just mentioned. Sitting there reading it in a coffee shop. The first few weeks after I got licensed, a close friend of mine who interned at the firm, right, who introduced me to the owner, told me to read A Random Walk Down Wall Street. And looking back on it, right, when it comes to financial advising, some people think I have the crystal ball, right? Like I just know where the markets are going at all times, kind of deal. Um, but going back to the coffee shop deal, I was sitting in my local coffee shop. I had my new transparent finance bro glasses on. I'm reading Random Walk Down Wall Street, and the barista who I'm close with, he came over and he was like, what are you, a finance bro now, dude? You know, Random Walk Down Wall Street, and you're sitting there reading it. But that book pretty much explains that, asset prices in the market exhibit signs of a random walk, right? And you can't consistently outperform the market. And a lot of my friends, if they're kind of, busting my chops and asking me where things are going and what's this, what's that, I'm like, I don't have the crystal ball. I don't have the crystal ball. You read Random Walk Down Wall Street. You understand, consistency and, staying passive and just staying buckled up for the long run. So that's helped me, I think, navigate those conversations. Right?
Okay. Okay, that's good. How about you,
yeah,
Christine?
yeah.
I actually like The Go Giver. I don't know if you're familiar with that book. It's about a guy who's trying to get like his third quarter numbers in, and he didn't make the second quarter, and he has to like close this huge deal, and he hears about this guy who um is like highly successful, has helped all these other people, and he goes into his boss's office and just says, "Hey, do you have Pindar's number?" And the boss is like, "How do how do you know about him?" And he did, and he gave the guy the number, and the guy gets mentored by this Pindar, and he teaches him these five rules of sales, basically. And it's give more than you get. Like, and that's all about the developing relationship part. And so it like kind of confirmed a lot of what I try to do. Um, and just I really enjoyed that book. The other one I have to mention is Atomic Habits. I really like that book. It's you can you can use that in your real life, or you can apply it to your business life, but it's just making these little changes in habits that you do, like if you want to be more consistent, or you want to not procrastinate, or whatever your goal is. Just it's habit stacking, basically.
Okay.
And that was a game changer.
All right. Well, guess what? We're coming to the last question of the day. You guys have been wonderful. Here's the deal. You meet someone, and you could be mentoring them, or you could be giving them advice about life or a job. I mean, my credo is always don't be a jerk. That's my credo. I tell someone, whatever you do, just don't be a jerk. It just happens. But what's some advice you would give someone, Patrick? If someone comes up to you and they want to know, I don't know, about life, or they want you to mentor them, or what's a short little version of you would give them?
As short as can be, and try not to overlook it, but don't doubt yourself, right? Because that's something that I struggled with for a while. I think even the slightest bit of doubt in your mind can lead you down a different path, compared to if you maintained that positive mindset, right?
Okay. How about you? How about you, Greg?
One of my favorite musicians is a guy named Michael Franti. He's been around since the 90s, and he's developed a brand of very uplifting, positive sort of surfer, hip hop, reggae pop. And he has a song called Work Hard and Be Nice to People. That's the easiest life advice I've ever heard. And that's what I would say. Just work hard and be nice to people.
Love it.
How about you, Christine?
If I was going to mentor someone, I would tell them to manifest your goals. Like manifest what you when you wake up in the morning, what do you want to do that day? Say a manifestation. Like today I want to talk to 10 people and make a difference in their life. So that would be something that it's something that I do. I read this book called The Great Little Book of Affirmations by Noah St. John. And it's not affirmations, it's afformations, which are different. And you actually say things to yourself, because your mind is like, your subconscious mind always listens to you. So say things to yourself like it already happened.
Okay.
And it really makes a difference.
Well, that was good advice. Thanks, guys. Now, Patrick, how can people get in touch with you?
You can feel free to reach out through LinkedIn. I'm on LinkedIn a lot. That's probably the best avenue. Reach out through LinkedIn. We can connect in the inbox, give you my email, phone number, whatever they might be. I'm very active on LinkedIn as well.
Okay. How about you there, Greg?
Professionally, LinkedIn's the best way. If you want to copy the book, I do have my own website, greggpodolski.com. It's available at Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Blackstone, my publisher. Buy one copy, buy two if you want to read it twice.
Okay. And that's two G's. It's
two
G's,
yes.
people. Just so you know, because people are like, oh, can't find. How about you, Christine? How can people get in touch with you?
LinkedIn would be fine too. I have an account on there that I'm on frequently. So yeah, happy to give out my information once we touch base.
All right. And people, you can get in touch with me on LinkedIn. You can also email me at the Coop Tank at yahoo.com. Do me a favor, go to YouTube, watch past shows, search it. You're going to love the show. There's really good advice from people. August 22nd, Soundplex Studios, another edition of Speakeasy Stand-Up. It's me with Katrina Braxton and Mark Riccadonna. Show's at 7:30. Contact me for tickets. It's $30 in advance. I'll give you the link. It's $35 at the door. It's BYOB. And then there's also wine tasting. And Soundplex Studios is the hippest, coolest joint in the area. I'm actually a gold member because it's great to network. It's great to just be creative. So check that out. Go to soundplexstudios.com just if you want to join a member. Go to my other website, coopertalk.net. You can find over 1,017 episodes. I just posted Chris Mars, drummer for The Replacements, which was a legendary 80s band. So you can check that out. Also, email me about starting in October, the first week in October. If you don't like public speaking, if you get anxiety at networking events, come to me. I'm teaching a 4-week workshop where I will sit there and I will get you to do stand-up comedy in your last event, at the last class. And you do that, you can look any fear into the eyes because it's a lonely world up there on stage, but it's fun. And you'll be able to talk to anybody after you do that. And don't forget, Joe Gangemi, the best producer in the game. Go to SuiteRecording.com, SUITE recording.com, or email him at hello@SuiteRecording.com. There's a reason I do my show at the studio. It's because Joe kicks ass, and Rich DeSisto kicks ass, and Sweet Recording kicks ass. So look them up, get in touch with them, and I'm going to tell you this much. You all have a good week, and I'll talk to you next time.